Hello and welcome to TV Cruise Channel's first time guide to cruising. I'm Julie Peasgood and I am a self-confessed cruise addict. And I'm not alone. Every year a record number of us Brits are choosing a cruise holiday. But if you're new to cruising, you've probably got a dozen or more questions in your head. Well, here to hopefully answer those and help explain why a cruise could well be the best holiday you ever take is travel expert, travel guru, Simon Calder. Simon, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I've nailed my colours to the mast, sorry for the pun, and said I'm an addict. Why, in your opinion, is cruising so fabulous? Because I know you love it too.
I do, and that's because it ticks a large number of boxes in a single holiday. Basically, you can unpack once when you go on board the ship, and after that you're going to be taken probably to some delightful destinations at almost no effort. And while you're not on shore exploring these fantastic places, you're on the ship enjoying lots of varied entertainment, as much food as you can eat, and meeting a lot of very interesting people along the way. So from all points of view, if you want an adventurous holiday that doesn't require too much on your part in order to get to some great places, then cruising's the way to go. Absolutely excellent. You're absolutely right. We're going to talk about food a little later. We'll come back to that. But how has the cruising industry changed, in your opinion, over the years? Because I know certainly in the last 5 years and 10 years, it's changed radically. Yeah, well, I'm actually going to take you further back than that. You wouldn't obviously remember this, but let's go back to 1994. Okay. Up until that point, basically cruising was seen as something for the rich and glamorous, for the newlyweds and the nearly deads, to use that terrible phrase, and something that you or I would never consider as a normal holiday. And then a tour operator called Air Tours came along and said, right, we're going to transform this. We are going to start cruising around the Canaries for a week for £399. And suddenly that put cruises within reach of ordinary families, and as a result of that you suddenly had this surge of interest. And it wasn't, of course, people just going for the budget option. The established players had to start coming up with some really good deals as well. And now we've got to the stage where whatever you want, whether it is a cheap and cheerful fly cruise on a relatively small and, dare I say it, elderly ship, or an adventure aboard these extraordinary, well, we've just seen the maiden voyage of the biggest of all, Harmony of the Seas, with what, nearly 10,000 people on board. There's something for you. And of course, as it's become more diversified, its appeal has intensified, because you have got everything from pretty small expedition ships all the way up to very large ships, and plenty in the middle, which I think is where an awful lot of people would find what they need. Yes, and river cruising, of course, has grown so much in popularity. Well, to the point, I'm hearing that in some places along the Rhine, along the Rhone, along the Danube, actually overcrowding is turning into quite a problem because there's so many river cruise vessels vying for space. But again, river cruising is an element of the cruise industry which I think still has enormous growth potential, because it's a very different experience. Yes. You're much closer, of course. Sometimes when you're cruising, and I love this, you're going along by some beautiful coastline, but it's not quite the same as being right there. I know. With the with all the scenery wafting past you as you sit on deck with a coffee or maybe something even stronger. What about fly cruises versus departing from Britain? Because I like departing from Britain because then I can buy loads of things and there's no weight problem of bringing it back on an airline. Oh, exactly. Well, there's that advantage. I was going to mention that. It's a great question, but also the airport experience, which I don't think you'll find anybody out there who is going to say, oh yeah, my favourite part of any holiday is going through the security check at Gatwick Airport. That's never been said by anyone at any time. And it's great to be able to go to Southampton, to Harwich, to Dover, to Liverpool these days, and get on a vessel almost sort of from in many cases close to your home and sail off. against that, if, for example, you're going to the Med, well, it's quite a long way, I've checked. If you can fly in 2 hours from Gatwick to Palma or to Barcelona or to Genoa, where you would pick up your ship. But to get there on a ship sailing all the way across the Bay of Biscay, down the beautiful coast of Portugal, around through the Strait of Gibraltar, which is, of course, very, very impressive. It's going to take you quite a time. If you just want to get some warmth, then probably a fly cruise is the way to go. And I tell you what, I must say, in terms of price, I've never seen a huge difference. If you build in, but in terms of extra nights aboard, getting to kind of where you want to be, whether that's the Baltic or the Med or wherever, I've never seen a dramatic price difference compared with flying out to the bit you want to be near.
You're absolutely right, and also you can combine it, if you do fly out, with actual some days or time in your chosen port that you've flown out to.
I've just done exactly that. So I've done a cruise from Barcelona to Rome. I went out early and explored the Catalan Pyrenees north of Barcelona, and then my children came out and joined me in Barcelona. We sailed across lovely meander across to Rome, or Civitavecchia anyway, the port for Rome, and then spent a couple of days there exploring this wonderful city. So it was very much a kind of extracting the maximum value from a cruise. And it's almost a shame, if you are in one of these great cities, whether it is Palma or Barcelona or Genoa or Rome, not to explore Athens, Istanbul. Gosh, they tend to start and end in some lovely places.
You do, and somewhere like Istanbul, one of my favourite cities, you do need, if you can, have a few days. On the other hand, cruises are a great sort of window of opportunity to let you see a place like Tallinn, and you think, this is wonderful, I'd love to come back here.
Oh, that is such a great way to look at it, because I thought I was the only person who looked at it like this. And I love the way that it gives you a taster of all these different places. And one thing I would say when you're choosing your first cruise is be very aware of what the logistics are. For example, I'm all in favour of people saying, I'm just going to spend £200 on a 3-night cruise, maybe going across to the Channel Islands, maybe to Zeebrugge, maybe to San Malo. But it all depends where you're going. If you go, for example, to Zeebrugge, then you're not quite going to be in Bruges, even though it's sold as Bruges.
Yes.
You're going to be at a dock where you have to get a bus to a station and then get on a train, and then you're in Bruges, and that's quite hard work. And similarly, I've been on a short cruise to Cork, which of course ends in Cove, a lovely place in its own right.
Yes.
But a bit of a distance from Cork itself. So, but when you get to these places, sorry to go back to your question, yes, you can, in a Baltic cruise, you're going to be going to some amazing places. Tallinn, certainly, the capital of Estonia, absolutely lovely. Helsinki, and
Copenhagen,
of course, Copenhagen. And St. Petersburg, I must say, the only way, and again I've checked, to see St. Petersburg is on a cruise, because you don't need to go to and get a visa.
Exactly.
Have you ever tried to get a Russian visa?
No,
Okay.
I really haven't, because it's, I know it's incredibly difficult.
Well, you have to go to the consulate in London or Edinburgh, get your fingerprints taken, pay lots of money, get all kinds of documentation. So the fact that you're on a cruise, as long as you get off on an organised excursion, you will see it. And we're talking here about the world's biggest country, which I've explored at some length. St. Petersburg, by a long way, is the loveliest city, and seeing it on a cruise is the way to do it. And most ships will stay there for a night, or typically 2 nights, in order to give you maximum time to explore.
Yeah, I've done it twice and managed to see different things. For me, the Church on the Spilled Blood is just incredible. But you mentioned a little couple of minutes ago, Civitavecchia, which is the port that you go into Rome. Now, I want to talk about shore excursions.
Yes.
When you do a ship's excursion, when you do go off-piste and do your own thing. With Civitavecchia, because it's quite a way away from the centre of Rome, it's about a half-an-hour train journey, I think.
Ooh, you've been on the pricey train. I took the cheap local one. That's an hour and a half.
Okie doke. Right. Well, I think that would be a very good case to do a ship's excursion, because they factor all the timings in, so it makes it cost effective. Plus, you're not worried if you're new to cruising. You don't want to go by yourselves and be scared of not getting back to the ship. It's the biggest fear.
Yep, and that's so important. It's a matter of researching not just the destinations and thinking, oh, Rome, that sounds nice, Genoa, lovely, Pisa, but working out how you're going to get there. Even though you can do it, you would need, if you were going into Rome for the day, you would need to get off the ship, get onto the shuttle bus, which will take you no further than the entrance to the docks. You're still then a mile from the station. You might be able to walk it, that'd be great. Otherwise there's buses, otherwise there's touts all yelling at you. You get to the station. If the train's running on time, you pay, I think, a pretty reasonable €5 each way to get there. But you've got to do that whole procedure on the way back. Whereas if you go for the excursion, yes, you're going to be kind of herded around, but it's going to be, you get off the ship, you get on that bus, next thing you know, you're in St. Peter's Square or wherever in Rome. So, exactly. So things to be said about for that. But of course, you'll know better than me that one of the growth aspects in the past few years has been independent shore excursion companies saying, we will undercut or provide a better experience than you will have with the cruise company.
What's your take on that?
I think if you do your research properly, if you take advice, particularly if you've got a good cruise agent, and they are saying, look, we've worked with this company, we've had very good recommendations, then it's well worth trying. You know, clearly compare the prices.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a case for going on a ship's excursion as well. If it's something that you would find very hard to source yourself, so like swimming with turtles or dolphins, or going to the ballet in St. Petersburg, something that would take such a lot of organisation, and the ship's made it easy because it's done it all from A to B and back again.
Oh, certainly. But at the other extreme, guidebooks. You can pick up a good guidebook.
Yes.
I was just in Gibraltar, for instance, and I was reading through the section in actually a guidebook on Spain, and it suddenly mentioned the Mediterranean steps, which I'd never heard of before, even though I've been lucky enough to go to Gibraltar before. And you realise that actually it's a long but a challenging and very, very rewarding walk that you can go on. Now, you're never going to see a trip that offers the Mediterranean steps because it's quite challenging,
right?
Yet it's, you know, you can get a cab to the starting point or just walk up there, whatever you want to, and then you've got this amazing journey where you climb. You know the shape of the rock. It is one of the great icons of Europe, and you're kind of climbing this icon, and then you suddenly turn and you can see Africa, and you are just in the middle of this amazing wilderness, and yet you're, you know, half an hour's walk from very recognisable high street stores and a decent place to get fish and chips.
Fantastic. Please stay, Simon. It's great talking to you, and do stay with us because we'll be back chatting more with Simon in just a few minutes. Hello and welcome back to TV Cruise Channel's first time guide to cruising. Travel guru Simon Calder is still with me. Simon, you mentioned in the first part of the show tipping, and I know tipping is a cause of concern for a lot of people. It's an area they feel worried about. What are your views on tipping policies?
Well, I blame the Americans for everything that is confusing and awkward about tipping. No, I don't blame them. They just have an entirely different culture where they are used to the idea that whatever the price of something is, I have to tip you 15, 20, 25% on top.
Daft, sorry.
I happen to share that view, but given that the vast majority of the cruising industry is effectively in American hands, you've got the big players, Carnival, which owns people like P&O and Cunard and Princess and Holland America and lots of others, and you've got Royal Caribbean, which is basically a US company, and Norwegian, which is, despite its name, a US company. They own lots of the cruising business, and therefore they look at things from an American perspective, and therefore they build in tipping as effectively part of the price. Now, you will be informed that you are expected to tip a certain amount per person per day, and that might be round about £10. So, you know, if you're paying a good budget, £70 a night, then that's actually adding 15 or so % to the cost of your trip. All I do, I just say, look, the reality is that the cruise companies factor in those suggested tips into the cost of the cruise. Unless something goes badly wrong, I'm not going to kick up a fuss and say I'm not paying this. So probably, like most people, I quietly get on with it. But that's partly because I've kind of factored them into the cost of the trip. And whatever cruise you're looking at, have a look at the tipping policy, because that's absolutely crucial.
Next of all, I'd like to touch on another sort of issue, which is people say, won't I get bored at sea? Now, I take issue with that question because bored is one thing I have never been. I love sea days. I find so many things to do on a sea day that the day is absolutely packed. What's your answer to, and what do you like doing when you're at sea?
Right, I primarily like cruising because I can get off the ship. Okay.
Right.
Because I love the way that you can, it delivers you effortlessly to so many great places.
Okay.
So that's where I'm starting from. However, every cruise I've ever been on that has had at least one sea day. And the great thing is, as long as you know that it's going to be happening, then you can just plan your time. I think one aspect of cruising that not enough people pay attention to, all the fantastic lectures. I know you've done some yourself. That's really good. Anything from kind of entertainment to information, and in particular finding out about the places you're going to. If a cruise company's done its work right, they will have hired experts who are going to put into context the place that you're going to, which means when you get there, you're going to enjoy it all the more.
Yes.
You've got, of course, activities on board, anything from table tennis to running around the deck, and most ships, again, will have a kind of, run around the top 6 times and you'll have done a mile. Yeah. And that's a very good thing to do. I never, by the way, on any cruise ship ever, use the lifts.
No, do the stairs.
Yeah,
I have been known to use the lift, so I'm not as good as you.
Okay.
But I know that you've cycled today up from the station on your Brompton, and that's amazing.
Well, only because I don't want, it's a really good way of getting free exercise, running up the stairs. So do that. And of course, there's very, very few times in modern life where you can just be completely cut off from everything. In particular, you're going to be cut off from your phone and the internet, unless you are investing very heavily in the internet and you don't mind paying, last cruise I was on, £3 per minute for receiving or making a call. Yeah. Once you get out to sea, prices go up, and most people, I just follow what the crew do. They all just use their phones when they're in port. They know the places in port when they can take their laptops and get online.
Cafes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you can do all that very, very easily. So just enjoy being out of contact. And even if you thought, didn't bring a book, again, ships have libraries.
Yes.
Yeah, and very often people have left books, and you just go and borrow it, and off you go. So, you're just meeting people. Time passes alarmingly quickly, because you get to the end of the day and you're thinking, I'll have a glass of wine now, and you think, where did the day go?
Other things that we've touched on, and I'd like just to explore a little bit more: food. What about the temptation that your waistline is going to suffer, and your brain may be expanding, but your waistline will as well? Yeah,
that's a real important issue. And particularly if you're new to cruising, you kind of, I've sort of seen this. People have the idea that unless they get as much as they possibly can on their plates now, the decks will be cleared, literally, and all this will disappear. It won't. There is as much food as you can possibly wish for whenever you want it. There's always somewhere open on a ship where you can get some food. Yeah. And I think if you get into the right mindset, then you're thinking, well, I don't need another helping of dessert, thanks very much, or another ice cream, because I know I can get that whenever I want to. And actually, you can just no need to alter your habits. Just enjoy the food that you have, and I would differentiate between the buffets, which are very well-run exercises in mass catering, from the kind of waiter and waitress service restaurants where you are actually eating some really nice, well-prepared stuff.
Exactly.
So just enjoy every mouthful. And I guess, yeah, particularly on sea days, you do need to be a little bit careful.
You do.
But one of the most exciting things I ever did on a cruise ship was go around the kitchens. They ran a backstage tour.
Yes.
I said, how much do you budget for meals for everybody? I couldn't believe the answer.
Tell me.
$11.50. So that's about £7 or £8 for all your food for a day. That's what they spend on the ingredients.
No.
So, yeah, well, I was very surprised. I double checked, but that's what
wow.
they said.
Well, I've had great food on most ships, nearly every one. I couldn't ever. I mean, I would have put it much more at 20, 25.
Yeah, no. That's all it is.
Final question: what's on your bucket list?
Oh, very much the southern cone of South America, by which I mean everywhere. Well, you can board wherever you like, really, all the way from kind of Rio down to Montevideo in Uruguay, but Buenos Aires is where I'd like to get on, and then sail down along the coast of Argentina and Patagonia to Cape Horn, and then all the way around up the coast of Chile to Valparaiso in Chile itself. I think that would be great. It typically takes about 2 weeks. Yes, it gets quite wild and windy going around Cape Horn, but it's well worth it for giving you the access to this wonderful part of the world without the quite rigorous process of getting there under your own steam over land. That's, I think, when cruising really comes into its own.
I think I've just added it to my bucket list too. Thank you, Simon. Okay, thanks to you as well for watching, and I'll see you again next time here on TV Cruise Channel. Bye for now.